I was in a band for 2.5 years that, it put me in touch with a lot of really good people. I'd worked with a lot of really cool people, particularly in Colombia, that I wanted to keep working with once that band sort of broke up. And we did end up breaking up, and I kept in touch with sort of our keyboard player, Aaron Robertson. And we sort of batted around the idea of starting another project, and for months we sort of talked about it. We didn't really do anything with it. I wanted to play drums, and Aaron wanted to do keyboard stuff, and we kind of wanted to write sort of this sort of electronic, techno-y kind of thing. And we wanted a vocalist, and that was going to be it. That was going to be like a trio sort of thing, probably. And we had talked with a couple of vocalists that I won't name. But we talked with a couple vocalists, and we couldn't really pin any down. One had started another band. Another one just, we couldn't really get to take it seriously. So that sort of went off the table. But I was like, hey, why don't we just end up having some fun and doing like a cover song or something, and I'll sing it just out of necessity, whatever. We just sit around, whatever. Because I was just bored, and I was playing drums for, artists every once in a while that needed a drummer for a week or whatever. And sort of became what I did after that, the band broke up. But we did this, Aaron and I did this cover of a Lanka song that, it didn't turn out too bad. And we kind of put it up, and people liked it a little bit. Amongst friends, people were like, this isn't too bad. Then we kind of were like, well, why don't we try writing something like totally brand new and like see what we can do with it. And we did, and I sang on it, and it wasn't too bad. And one thing led to another, and we just kind of kept doing it. And I did the final like demo that I did with Aaron, and we just kind of called it HARPS. I don't like if we ever released anything, that's what we were going to call it. But we weren't really planning on really releasing like a record or anything. Then I ended up deciding to move to Seattle and sort of try and pursue more drum set kind of stuff. But while I was doing that, I just kind of, was like walking my dog or something, and I just called Eric, and I was like, what do you think about doing a record? Eric McCoy from Archer Avenue Studio. I was like, what do you think about doing like a record with some of this stuff? Like, I don't remember if it like came up on my iPod or something, and yeah, I was just like, well, I can hear guitars in this or whatever. And he was like, yeah, sure. And so we booked time months out, and I kind of had a little bit of time to think about the project a little bit, not too much. And I flew out, and we started writing and sort of working through the songs. There was never really any like grand plan. I never really wanted to really do that. I still sort of at this point still consider myself a drummer first, probably. But the record came out pretty well, and this is going to be sort of what I focus on in terms of like my musical kind of direction at the moment. So it sort of was born of accident and just, well, this is pretty good, and let's keep working with it. And then it just became really fun, and we all got really excited about it, and we got a bunch of really good people to come and play on it, and that excited me. And then one thing led to another. I met Nick, and he was excited about it, and now it is kind of what it is, and it's about to kind of form itself and be something new, and that's sort of exciting to me too.
I met Colin initially through some drum corps connections that we had, because I got hired to head up the percussion program at the Cascades Drum Corps in Seattle, and was looking for a front ensemble instructor. The front ensemble in drum corps is basically like all the classical percussion instruments that sit on the front sideline of the ensemble, such as like marimba and vibraphone and xylophone and stuff like that. And so I needed somebody to kind of herd cats and teach that. And through a mutual friend in Seattle who had marched years ago with Colin back when he was in high school and whatnot, kind of hooked us up, and so I invited him out to a rehearsal that we were having with another high school group that I was working with up there. Met him. Didn't even really know anything about harps, at that point, and or really his intentions in Seattle or why he moved there or anything like that. And but obviously one thing led to another. He ended up inviting me out to a show where he was playing with an artist in Seattle, and so we kind of just got beers and hung out. And because of the fact that we were both drummers and had both done drum corps and had such a similar background and both really liked performing, I think considered ourselves performers first. It really, projects aside, I kind of thought of him as a pretty as a new friend, and so I kind of was able to lock him down and hire him with the drum corps, and then just kind of almost out of the blue, he sent me a link to the initial HARPS SoundCloud, and I listened to it, and it was really good, and I was really impressed with even the 4 songs that he had up there. And so we just started talking, and then it was like, well, if you need a drummer or anything, I'm pretty busy, but let's maybe take a look at this, and so it so far everything's gone really well. And I think that because of the fact that you called attention to the fact that he's a drummer and I'm a drummer, it's like it's kind of makes things a little easier, because he knows kind of how I think, and so it's like it's made working together pretty seamless for the most part. And
so far anyway.
Yeah, so far. I mean, obviously there's a lot left to do, and as far as getting the project off the ground, but up to this point, I think it's all worked really, really well.
I think of music as just another medium of sort of creating something. Whether it be, I can't draw, but whether it be music or, writing or acting or, visual art or whatever. I think that like everybody that sort of creates something out of nothing has a need to do that, and always needs to do that. And that I always kind of felt that, like I had a creativity that I needed to sort of take energy and apply to. And music was just happened to be what I kind of like ended up sort of doing. I listened to a lot of music, and I really felt like I understood how drums worked. Like when I was a kid, I'd figure it out. I never really could understand guitar too well, but I could always look at a music video or hear a song and digest what the drummer was doing, and my brain just latched onto that, and I sort of just stuck with it. But through the years, it's been whether playing drum set or doing classical music or even arranging or composing music or writing songs or whatever, it's just kind of turned itself into I need to be involved in something like some sort of creative project. And I don't even see myself only doing music per se. Like I said, it's just a need to do something cool all the time and create stuff and just make stuff that I like. And music just happens to be the way that I can do it right now.
Grew up in a really small town outside of Olympia, Washington, and I don't know. Growing up, I'm sure it's not unlike most people. It's like you have your hopes and your dreams and whatnot. And for me, when I was a little kid, it was like there was playing drums for a living was a dream. Playing Major League Baseball was a dream, and maybe if none of those worked out, like doing computer work of some sort. And so I remember my drum set teacher at the time, Josh Woodman. We were just in one of our drum lessons or something, and he took me aside and he's just like, well, I'd like to, I think you've got the talent to like, eventually do this for a living, but it kind of depends on a lot of different things. And so I just got to thinking about it like literally that week, and I kind of made the decision there just to go with it. Because I figured, well, I don't throw 90 miles per hour, and so I'm probably not going to play Major League Baseball. And then I thought of the computer thing, and it was just kind of like, the whole package of it seemed like the whole cubicle computer thing seemed way less cool than drum set in front of people thing. So that was honestly is about all the thought that went into it. And so I just followed through with it. But I think the bigger reason that it actually ended up working out as well as it did was because of the support that I had from my parents. And because without them, I wouldn't ever have been able to go to pursue it at a collegiate level or anything like that, or anything beyond that. So my parents really supported me, and so but definitely second everything that Colin said as far as being it being the artistic motivation and all that. But to me, it's kind of like, that's, somebody asked me why do I play music, that's why. It's just what I always wanted to do.
Sorry, I couldn't throw 90 miles an hour either. So.
I know, it's it would be so sweet, but
yeah.
So honestly, I just hope that the music makes them feel good, and that they have a good time with it. That's really kind of my take on
it. I sort of approach harps as at its core, it is pop music. But what we really tried to do was make a pop record that was smart, that was a little bit different in a number of ways, from the way we recorded it to the way we started recording it to the way we sort of, Eric and I had this thing in the studio basically where we would do whatever idea the other one had. I had the idea of doing multiple drum sets on songs, and he was like, okay, I've never done this, but let's try it anyway. It might be terrible, but we're going to do it anyway. Ended up being pretty cool. Or real dirty vocals, or real dirty, but we always wanted to keep that core of pop the same, and then just not dumb it down to sell to people. That was always really important to me, that it be sort of highbrow pop almost. And I hope that that's what people get. I hope people can enjoy it for it being a sort of catchy, hooky pop music that they sing, but also don't feel stupid for listening to. A lot of things you hear on the radio are meant to just be easily digested, super simple, memorable, dumb content, pop music. But they're not all like that, but there's a lot of it out there, and I had no interest in doing that, but I love pop and simple, awesome melodies. So that's kind of what I want people to get out of it, is just do I get that? Do I enjoy this, and can I remember it, and can I sing it, and still feel like there was time taken to make it, sort of thing. Is there something to me that sticks out as being memorable, but familiar at the same time, new and sort of exciting, but familiar at the same time. I did this in November before there was a band, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I played drums on it, on the first EP that we're about to release. I actually did the drums on it, and everybody that played on it is probably not going to play on whatever else in the future. Like we will have a band and that sort of thing, and that, I mean, will make it change just because who's in it. Like you can't deny sort of the involvement of other people into the thing, and it'll grow and it'll do whatever it does, and and there will be like no real. I won't try and limit it from doing that. I feel like because it's stupid to try and do that. Like everybody's gonna play like they play, and that was sort of how we approached this record. We called people we knew that we were going to let them play how they played. Eric McCoy played guitar, and he was awesome, and it sounds like Eric McCoy playing guitar on the EP, and we let him do pretty much whatever he wanted. And Chad Rochester was the same way, and Kenny McWilliams was the same way, and there was very little like direction in any kind of way, and it's going to be that way with the band. Like those guys are going to help songwrite, and we're going to write stuff together, and it's going to probably not sound the same the next time. And Nick's going to play drums on stuff, and he and I are different kinds of drummers, and it's going to change and grow and do whatever it's going to do.